Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Angie, she, her pronouns, and today we have Mac, who goes by This Mad Desire, he, him pronouns. Mac is this rock and roll, open-minded, courageous, and determined dude who achieves everything he puts his mind to. I met him at a conference and can easily say that prior to this interview, he was already providing a lot of insight and perspective into the music scene. A great listener and a man with much to contribute, Mac and I talk about the intersections of pain and music creation, the world of piano teaching and non-standardized guidance, and how we can honor the people who we have lost. Find him on any streaming platform by typing in This Mad Desire, and if you're listening closely right now, you'll probably recognize that today's background music isn't the usual. This is actually the instrumental to one of his songs, Operators Are Standing By, which you'll hear more of during this episode. Just a trigger warning that, again, like most of these episodes, the themes of this one might be difficult for some listeners as we cover topics like suicide. How are you?
Excellent. Yourself?
Good, thank you. All right, so Mac, your lyrics. You have very interesting lyrics. A lot of your music is political.
Thank you. Well, not all of it.
Not all of it. No, you're totally right. Not all of it at all. But
there is some political, sure.
There is some political. And you know what? Like, political topics within music really push the boundaries, and I think that's an amazing thing to do, to be able to like go out there and write lyrics and music about your opinion or about other people's opinions or current events as a way to like I guess bring attention towards it, bring awareness towards it. I want to ask how you come up with your lyrics.
But for example, Antifa and the Supremacists is probably the most, well, or American Dream are tied for the most political songs I've ever written. But I wrote Antifa and the Supremacists. Like, first of all, like just imagine Antifa, then imagine who the white supremacists are, right? And then they're going to be fighting at some riot, right, in America. And during the pandemic, that kind of stuff was like written large, and I think it still is. But the weirdest thing was, like, a couple of years ago when I, after I wrote that song, I made friends with a person named Dan Konopka, who is the drummer in a band called OK Go. And OK Go is not a political band at all. But they are a Grammy Award-winning band that makes amazing music videos. And somehow we became friends, and the first song that he wanted to work on with me was Antifa and the Supremacists. And then just 2 or 3 days after he gave me back his drums for that song, I was attacked on the street. But anyway, like within 20 minutes, they'd arrested the person, and I was on the floor in a pool of my own blood in an A&W because some people that, were just walking around, ran up and helped. And it was really tough. It was really, really tough. The truth is, it was just a random attack, but that can happen to anyone. And, there's people who are attacked by people like this all the time. After being in the hospital, I got all my stitches in and everything like that. And it was like so weird. I posted on Facebook. And then within about an hour, it was shared like 33,000 times.
Wow. That's a community right there.
Yeah, but that's also like, it showed me, like, I deleted it, like, as soon as I woke up in the morning. Because I saw it 33,000 times shared. And then also, like, the comments coming in were ranging from, oh man, hope you get better, to, like, college age kids going, fucking hope you die, like weird, like, just like beyond crazy stuff.
That's horrible. Like,
yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Just a range of stuff. And I was, so I was, struck by just the strength of that. And then I took it down on my, because I did it from my business page. I was able to delete across the whole internet really quickly. But even still, like when I went to my doctor's office and stuff like that, like a week later, to check in on things, all the secretaries said, oh, we saw this in the newspaper. But they didn't see it in the newspaper. They saw it in Reddit, and they saw it on Facebook, or they saw it wherever they did. But they thought, but it was not in the newspaper at all because I asked everyone to keep it out of the press.
Of course.
But anyway, it was interesting just to see how people are,
So why? So did you choose to delete that because of the comments that you were getting?
Yeah, just too much. Just too much. Like, and I was so I was in so much physical pain.
Yeah, of course. Like, why add on to that emotionally? That's such bullshit. Like, why? Where does this even come? Like, where did they get off saying, like, you should die or, whatever else comments after something so traumatic happens?
You get on the internet and you find out there's people that have no compunction about, I mean, people talk about, young girls, like teenage girls and stuff, being upset about their body image or whatever, right? And it's so easy to understand because people on the internet are, well, they're shielded. Like they will say anything that, let's be honest, they would not say to you in your face.
Yep. A lot of really mean comments. Honestly, even when I started a mental health organization a couple of years ago at my university, the amount, like we were in newspapers and stuff, and the amount of comments that we got talking about how, we're spineless for feeling depressed or, we're just complaining and whining about the, like, not feeling heard or seen or whatever. And like we are so overwhelmed with the amount of hatred we received for standing up for basic mental health rights after a suicide epidemic.
That's ridiculous. A suicide epidemic?
Yeah. So our school went through 4 suicides in 1 year, and then following that, just a couple of months in January and February, there was, I think, 1 or 2 more. So in total, I think it was like 5 or 6 suicides within about a year.
There's
all on the campus.
Nothing worse.
Yeah, and then you got people like talking about how these people are spineless and they can't handle reality and they can't handle life and stuff. And I'm like, these people have passed away now.
Just chin up and get smarter and stronger, right?
Yeah. Oh, great advice. Yeah, literally. Like, okay. Or like when people constantly argue that, oh, mental health isn't real or it wasn't real X amount of years ago and now it is because like people are complaining about it and they like want attention and stuff. That's not true. Just several years ago, or like say 20 years ago, we weren't talking about it.
When people kill themselves, it's not for attention.
No. Why? How would they get the attention after they've left this earth? Like,
I have known people, that have done that kind of thing, and it was never a good process to find out the aftermath, right?
Yeah.
And once you find out afterwards that someone has done that, it's scary and it's sad to pick up the pieces, right? I was in Manitoba, and my mother and my mother always comes up, but she'd given me this book by Leonard Cohen. Anyway, I was reading through this book of his old poems, and it turns out that in Flowers for Hitler, he had written this poem. And it, I could tell by the look of I didn't even have to read it. It's like the shape of the poem. Like I had sang this song so many times. Wow. This is a few years later. And then it was about a 10-year process, or maybe more. I was trying to contact, the publishing house and like trying to find out like his family and stuff. Eventually, I did get through to his estate lawyer after he died in Beverly Hills. And he asked for the MP3. And then never heard anything further. And I, kept trying to get, in contact and stuff. But anyways, yeah, it's just Leonard Cohen lyric. And it's like, yes, I now have a song I've co-written with Leonard Cohen, which is available everywhere. And not a lot of people can say that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is, I don't want to glorify a tragedy by any means. That is a tragedy. That's what it is at its core.
It's a horrible thing. And then and the reason I released it is because my drummer died unexpectedly. And I felt like it was important to commemorate both of those people in song and just have it be available because what else can you do?
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing that this music holds so much power. It's like it's going to last forever. And within this music, these people still
Yeah.
live, right?
Yeah. And basic concept is that any money I ever make from that song, I will always donate to mental health crisis centers in North America. Well, anywhere, but mostly North America, I would think.
That's amazing. Honestly, that's a really, really great initiative. And I think it's really important to take those initiatives. Like, I don't think there's enough people out there who, you know, there's a lot of performative people out there who say they care about mental health, but when push comes to shove, they don't really do anything about it. They kind of just stand on the sidelines and, they're like, oh, damn, that sucks. And that's about it.
Yeah,
But
well, and well, to be honest, I haven't made a whole lot of money off this track yet so far. So, let's be fair about that. But like, let's imagine if I did. That's the concept.
yeah, but even donating that money, even making those tracks, it's not necessarily about the money. It's about putting that thought into it and keeping these people alive through that music. That is the most important thing that continues to raise awareness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself and honest with your public and your, fans and everything like that. Like, this is what's going to happen, and hopefully it leads to, yeah, like you say, greater awareness. Maybe you don't have to go through all of your struggles alone.
Yeah, absolutely not. And music kind of like, I don't know about you, but sometimes being a musician is both one of the most social careers and one of the most lonely careers.
It can be very alienating in a lot of ways, but just because you're, well, I don't know if you've ever been a touring artist, but when you're a touring artist, for example, when you're touring, you are really in a silo. And yes, you're playing in a lot of different cities, and maybe there's a lot of people that show up and stuff, but nobody ever talks to you other than people like randomly well, I mean, there's parties and all, whatever, but like you're in town for a day, right? Or less. Like I was just talking to a buddy of mine in New York. I was saying, listen, like I was in New York. I was there in and out, 12 hours. Showed up. Yeah, I met a bunch of, burlesque performers and wound up in a limo and saw them all snorting cocaine. And then I got them to bring me drinks on stage and stuff like that. But by 3 o'clock in the morning, I was gone. Like, what did I see? Nothing. I was like, I saw the venue and I saw these girls.
Yeah, I mean, that's the epitome of like being alone in a crowded room, right? Like, just because you're in the presence of people doesn't mean that you're not lonely. But at the same time, that feeling unfortunately creates art. And I say this all the time. It's because it's true, but it's also so sad.
I wrote a song all about it, and it's,
Actually, can you dive more into that?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I was saying I went to New York and then came back home and then was alone with the piano. And, obviously, I had a great experience in New York, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But yeah, seconds later, I was on the, when I got home, I was on the piano and, just kind of, and I was like, in my own like piano mode, right?
In your element.
Yeah. And I was just thinking like what are the lyrics and stuff like that. So I made a draft of it and stuff, and eventually a couple of years ago, I went to Toronto and I recorded it properly. But before I did that, actually, I contacted a few friends of mine and asked, tell me with like revising the lyrics and stuff. Because that's another thing I do is I try to collaborate with people too and find out, what do you think about this and how can you change that, stuff like that. And I always find there's, other opportunities to learn more about the human condition, right? Because they always have something else they bring to the table. Doesn't matter who they are. But yeah, so a few people, they wrote me their thoughts. I didn't actually use any of them, but But I thought because I was starting the whole thing off in New York, I ended the whole thing off in LA. And that worked out perfectly because, as it turns out, I was working with people from Hollywood when I, was putting the record together and stuff. And maybe it was foreshadowing. I don't know. Maybe that was part of the, how does Freud describe the brain? Like there's your ego and your id and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, your superego,
Subconscious.
your
Yeah.
ego. Yeah. Speaking psych.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of course, you know all that stuff.
No, so would you say like that's your I don't want yeah, I guess would you say that's your anthem? Like what is your personal anthem, quote unquote, that you've written that you're like, this is me?
The absolute number one song I have is called "Operators Are Standing By."
Operators are standing
There
by.
is no question. Yeah, and that song is about human connection. And the first version of it is the way I got back into the music industry in 2017. So first of all, there's a brand new remix that just came out that a Brazilian artist named Polino did, and it's got a brand new video and everything like that. But when I first did it, it was kind of like I'd been out of the music industry for a few years, and kind of wanted to inch back into it and stuff. And I wrote this song called "Operators Are Standing By," and "Operators Are Standing By" was really about. Well, first of all, it was around the same time I was writing it is when Trump took the election, and so I sang about a female president, and I referred to the American president as her. She got the news, kind of thing, right? And I thought, just to be honest, like most people, like when you're kind of down in the dumps or when you're, like many things might happen to you in life, but if you don't reach out, well, nothing's going to happen. But there's a lot of people, they might be your family, they might be your friends, they might be, various other social services, whatever it might be. There's a lot of people who are willing to listen to you with operators are standing by, right?
So true.
And then so I wound up making a crazy, awesome music video that went, kind of viral. Well, not viral to a certain extent. I mean, we had like 200 something thousand views on YouTube and whatever. But it's a great video, very cool video. And there was like 30 actors, and like 15 crew, and all that kind of stuff. And everyone was just so into the concept of the song, and they loved the feeling of it and everything. That at the end of the day, we didn't have enough footage, and every single person was like doing this for free, and they all had their own day jobs and everything like that. So I had to call them up all individually and say, listen, can you come back on Monday, a week and a half from now, and we got to finish this up and stuff, and we need continuity. Therefore, you need to be there, and you might have to take your day off work and stuff like that, right? And every single person said yes.
Wow.
There was no question. It was the funnest thing I've ever done in my whole life.
That's amazing. That is like connection building.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I really like the idea of that song because it's true. I mean, it is really difficult for a lot of people to reach out. I mean, reaching out and coming out with your story and vocalizing it and admitting it to people is one of the hardest things that anyone could possibly do, and sometimes our society does not make it any easier for anyone to do it, and it's really unfortunate, like especially with, and I recently spoke about this, but with cancel culture and all these different stereotypes.
Wow,
and
yeah,
and it's like it makes it, again, it doesn't make it accessible for people to come out. It feels so like a judgment zone, and no one ever upholds a judgment-free zone anymore, and that makes it really difficult to talk. So I really like that people can resonate with that song and know that there are still people like you who care out there. And sometimes I listen to music and I'm like, oh my god, like this is so deep. I wonder if it's a cry for help, because sometimes I just want to reach out to this artist.
Yeah, how many famous singers have you ever heard of that killed themselves, right? Yeah. And it's not necessarily to do with the fame, goddamn. It was because they just didn't have an outlet. There's just so many things that happen in people's lives.
Yeah.
that prevent them from having true conversations with people sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find that music is like the best tool or the best method personally that allows me to be able to communicate without actually communicating, without being like, hey, I need help. Instead, I'm like, hey, I need help.
But I wanted to ask you just a quick question.
Yeah.
You told me that you did grade 10 piano. Is that correct?
Yes. One of my students is in level 4, and, you know, she wants to play pop songs and other songs and the songs that she wants to play. And I feel for that. Like, trust me, when I was 12 years old, I didn't want to sit down and play Mozart. I wanted to sit down and play a song that other people can sing to. So I get that.
Yeah, I used to have tons of students. Like I had about 40 families I was teaching at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's anymore, but I used to teach piano, and sometimes it's like my better students that were in the conservatory system. But there was kids I had that were like early teenagers, like tweens, and they might have not practiced the week before, and so they would show up to me, and they would be ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they knew, not that I was a disciplinarian, because I was not at all, but they just wanted to show me that they had mastered the material and all that kind of stuff. But we were in a church where I was teaching, and I remember this one time, this girl, she was having a real hard time at home, and I kind of got the sense that she just needed to relax for a minute. And she was like one of my best students. And so I said, why don't we just walk into the sanctuary for a second? Because we had access to the sanctuary of the church. And we just sat there in the church, and I just watched her cry for like a minute and a half. And then eventually she explained to me what was going on, like there was problems at home, mom and dad are fighting, whatever. But just, she didn't get that kind of moment at school, because she was at school all day long, and like it's you're doing stuff all day long, and you can't you don't get a minute, right? And anyway, the next week, of course, she had practiced like you can't believe. But just and so, some of the other kids that were sort of similar in that situation, they eventually, when they became older, befriended me as a friend on Instagram and crap like that, right? But yeah, you just never know what anyone's going through.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I've got so many students. I remember there was one student who she didn't practice for a week, and I'm not ever quick to jump and be like, why didn't you practice, blah 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 blah. Like, I don't like that kind of method of teaching. I always think there's a reason as to why the student didn't practice. It might be because they don't like the song, they don't like the music, or because they're going through personal issues or whatever else. And it's like really important to have that open space and that open conversation. And I always tell my students at the beginning of any lesson, when I first take on them, I'm like, know that you're teaching me as much as I'm teaching you. So like, be transparent, guide me as well. If there's something you don't like, we'll try and find a compromise. But I did have one student who was getting so bullied at school, she didn't go to school for 3 weeks. And during that time, yeah, she like
craziest.
It's so unfortunate. And this girl was, I think she was 14 or 15.
But let me ask you a question. Were you ever bullied at school? Like I was bullied at school.
Oh, I was bullied at school. I was weird. I was bullied at school.
Yeah, I mean, I recall all kinds of terrible situations. It's I think it's tough being an adult, and it's just imagine being a kid.
Yeah. No, I remember this one time in the 4th grade, I had just come to a new school and I had no friends yet. And it was maybe like 4 months into school and I still had no friends. And I was just building a little snow fort on my own. And this girl came up to me and she's like, hi. And I'm like, oh my God, hi, want to play? And she's like, no, I just wanted to say that no one liked you, and walked away. And I'm like, okay, I'll just keep building my fort over here, not bothering anyone.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Kids can be mean.
Well, of course they are, because they come from parents who are mean or they're not mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, even so, not justifying it, but there definitely more than likely is a reason to why a child might be acting the way that they are acting. So,
I think there's 100% a reason.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I just never want to justify being mean. Like, I really don't like it when people are like, oh, I'm mean, but it's only because, I'm clinically depressed, so it makes it okay. No, it doesn't make it okay. Like, I get where it's coming from, but it doesn't make it okay.
That's an interesting point that you just made, because that's something I know that exists in society. It's like sometimes when you're diagnosed with something, sometimes people tend to use that as an excuse.
Yeah, but it's not an excuse. I feel for those people. Believe me, I do, and I'm like, no one deserves that. I do not wish any mental health challenge upon my worst enemy. But
It's super tough, all around. Like, and the people that think of it as an excuse, like that's a coping mechanism too.
yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
For the most part, I mean, and once, well, I'm not going to say everyone can be saved or anything, because you can't. You know what? Like sometimes, first of all, number one, we can't know anything except for what we find out.
Absolutely.
And if we're lucky, we can meet people that are friendly to our perspectives and become friends and maybe help each other sometimes. And if we're lucky, our family is like that too. And if they're not, obviously back to friends. But
Yeah.
but the more you reach out and meet people, the more you can find. There's probably more common ground out there than you might imagine.
Oh yeah. And one last thing, how can people find your music? Because that is very important.
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously, the simplest thing is thismaddesire.net. Looking forward to connecting with as many people as possible.
Awesome. This Mad Desire. Yes, thank you so much for being here today and sharing so many stories.